Light Iron was involved with a number of films here at Sundance, right? Like too many for us to talk about it. In fact, we could take the entire panel talking about them. So could you give us a short synopsis for like one or two that have done really, really well at the festival?
Yeah, absolutely. We were really, really lucky. In years past, we've had the opportunity to collaborate with so many filmmakers. And this year, we provided post-production for 7 features that are at the festival, and then countless others that we also worked with through our parent company, Panavision. So that's been what's really exciting, is because we have the cameras and the post-production, we can really start to bring things closer together. And a lot of these projects that are here have that in common. One of them, Palm Springs, is a feature that we worked on, which everybody kind of lovingly calls the kind of Groundhog Day meets like wedding mashup. But it's a great comedy. It just got sold at the festival, which is really exciting. The DP, Quinn Tran, is incredible. We've had the honor to work with her before. And so we really got to kind of work from start to finish on that feature, developing the look, talking about how everything would tie together, and then when we got to final picture, finishing kind of what we could really do creatively. And I think it made a really big difference for everyone to have such a collaborative experience.
So, and the colors are so meaningful in that film. I don't want to give away too much either because
go see it.
Yeah, but yeah, it's a little bit punched on glove in some ways, and but it definitely has a very strong visual language, I think.
Yeah, definitely, and that's something they had a lot of conversations with our colorist, Ethan Schwartz. They talked before a lot about kind of how they would handle that through the dailies. What kind of looks and how far you could take things, because that's something as a cinematographer, you're on set and you're lighting a certain way and you're visualizing it one way, and then you kind of want to be in the ballpark where everybody is happy, but then you want to also keep yourself open for what you're going to be able to go and dive deeper in once you get to the final big screen.
Yeah. Did they talk with you guys a lot about, or at all, about some of the kind of, I don't want to say effectsy shots, but but some of the, shall we say, slightly more dramatic, visually dramatic shots? Did they talk about that a little bit in advance before they got to you guys to loop you in?
Yeah. That's another big part of it, is anytime you're kind of doing something a little bit more creative visually, whether it's like a real 3D visual effect or something that you're kind of doing a little bit in camera and then going to enhance, that's a really important conversation to have up front, so you can kind of know how far you want to pull things and what you want to do on set practically versus what you want to do in post-production.
Well, there were a couple other films that you had here.
Yeah, we did. Wander Darkly is another film. We also have a documentary, The Assassins, Dinner in America, The Night House. It was a really nice variety, a lot of different types of stories. So it was really fun for our team to kind of get to experience a lot of different, visions of these directors and cinematographers.
So, Erin, I have a question for you. The edit is considered by many to be the last version of the script. How does being a director and a writer inform your work as an editor?
That is a really good question. And I think truly being both influences me in both directions, meaning if I'm directing a film, the fact that I've edited has influenced the way I approach the edit, and the fact that I edit films influences the way I direct them from the beginning. And the specifics of that are, I really do believe the edit is the third cut of the film. I love when, let's say I'm editing for another director, I love that they know what shots they like the best. I love that those notes are there, and I love that there's a script there for me to follow. But I truly try not to look at them when I'm doing my first cut of a film. And if I've read usually, I come onto a project, I've already read the script because I've agreed to do the project, and I've met with the director. But, if weeks have gone by, I really try not to look at it. what I want to do when I approach the footage for the first time is let everything wash over me. Like, just what do I notice? Make notes. Because sometimes what really pops on camera in the edit suite is not what you were feeling in the room. And I've learned that as a director. I've gone in on some of my own projects and thought in the room, this is the best take, and then realized later, you know what, there's something about this other take, and I wasn't feeling it in the room, and maybe it's because I had an idea of what I wanted, but this is different, but actually working better. So because I know that, I really, really work hard to not be too attached to the original idea of what the script was about and what the performance that we were going for, whether it's performance I wanted, the performance the director wanted. And if I'm afforded enough time, which I've been lucky enough to work with directors who really give me my time to put my edit together first, I'm able to look at what's hitting me, what feels fresh. And also, it's not just what performance is, but it's the order. We sometimes you totally change the order of a script. Sometimes you realize, this one moment is so compelling. What if we open the film with it? There's things that happen while you're in, and sometimes it's because of mistakes. Sometimes a mistake happens or you don't get something, and it ends up being a beautiful mistake because it forces you to use ingenuity. So yeah, I would say that it's definitely true that it's your third chance to make a totally different movie, and the most important thing, both for a director and for an editor, I think, is to be completely open-minded. And hopefully, we were talking earlier about how a lot of times when you're chasing a deadline, you have someone editing a film as you shoot it over the course of maybe it's an indie film and you have 2 weeks and you have someone editing it. And I do think there's a lot of value in that. I think the most valuable thing is realizing what you shot so that if you missed something, if you need to pick something up. You want to make sure that your original idea, you can do it. But if you have that and you have the time, it's better at that point to almost throw that draft away, start over and say, if I knew nothing, if I'm just responding to the footage that I have and asking it, what does it want to do? I think that's a really beautiful thing to be given the time and the permission to do that.
Are you working as a director with editors as well, or are you mostly editing your own stuff?
So I've done both. A lot of times I edit my own stuff simply because I'm extending the budgets to the max and I want to put all of that into production. But I do have some editors that I really like working with, and sometimes if they're passionate about a project and they want to come on for an indie rate, or if it's on a job with a fast turnaround and I'm moving on to something else. So it varies. It goes both ways. But the principles of what I just said, they apply both ways. I always tell editors, I'm like, hey, here's my favorite takes, but don't look at this yet. I want to know what you think, because the more people, yes, it's the director's job to helm and to make sure that everything is cohesive, but I think being able to get the opinions and the magic that other people see, that's what they're there for.
Exactly. That's why you hire them. You're not just hiring them to push a button. You're hiring them because you want their taste. You want their ideas and their emotional input into the project. Otherwise, you wouldn't, you need an automaton. You just get a bot to do it.
Absolutely.
Exactly. So is it weird, changing director hat, writer, editor?
For me, okay, so I'm an extrovert. My favorite part of
I don't believe you.
I really love working with people, so I really enjoy meetings and pre-production. I really enjoy being on set. Editorial is it's funny. I love the actual cutting part, but if I'm in a room by myself too long, I go a little nuts, and I also write. So it's for me, I just need a balance. I love the rhythm of going through from project to project. What I love about editorial is it's very flexible. I can work at 2 a.m. if I want to. I can get up at 8 if I want to take on, if I'm working 2 jobs at once. If one of them's editorial, I have a lot of flexibility, and so I really love that about it. And I do love that editors are problem solvers. I truly am a problem solver. I've been kind of wired that way since I grew up. And they're, like I said, sometimes beautiful mistakes happen when you're editing, right? Or beautiful mistakes happen while you're shooting, but the editorial is where you realize that it is beautiful. This mistake is beautiful because we are forced to do something outside the box. Right. So I really love that aspect of editorial when I'm like, oh gosh, we do not have it. But maybe we have something even better. That part's really fun.
Yeah, I've been there. Oh man, it's a little nerve-wracking at first, and you're like, no, it's not, it's totally fine. We will work this. It'll be fine. So, Laura, tell us about Pacified, Pacificado, and shooting in the Brazilian favela. Also, tell us about your experience at Camera Maj and the tremendous reception that you received there.
What was it like shooting in the favela? Well, I think the tendency is like to just like clump favela, like Brazilian favela, into like one category. And really, this film was written about a specific neighborhood, Prazeres. So it's like a character in the film. The director lives there. The writers and producers live there. The characters in the film live there. So it was about that community, and it was amazing. It was one of the most beautiful places I've ever been, and
When you say that, do you mean in terms of the colors or the textures, or, I mean, clearly the people as well, but what particularly, what did you gravitate to the most there on a visual level?
well, yeah, I mean the colors and the textures and all of that, of course. But I mean, the first thing I noticed when I went into Prazeres was actually the nature. There's like a lot of nature there. There's a lot of wild plants like growing over buildings, and there's a lot of people like in the community interact with the nature, and it's like a big part of the place. So we really wanted to embrace that, the director and I. And there's this scene in the film about foraging, so it's like written that part of the community is written into the story, but also the beautiful light that's there, especially at night. It's super magical at night. Yeah, it was great. I mean, it posed its own challenges, but also its own like necessities in terms of like its openness. I mean, we were able to really do it. It was almost like having our own backlot. Like we controlled the power grid in Prazeres, and we were able to like rig lights and do some pre-lighting that I don't think, I mean, with our budget, we wouldn't have been able to do if we didn't have such a support from the community. It was like a real grassroots like community effort to make this film happen.
Cool. Could you tell us a little bit about the plot, what it's about?
Sure. It's about this young girl who's from her name's Katia. She's from her character's name is Kachi, but she's actually from Prazeres, and it's about her just it's a simple story about her growing up, and she's sort of figuring out who her father is, and at the same time that she's doing that, the old boss of the favela comes back from his long term in prison, and so she's trying to figure out if that's her father, and they form a relationship, and it's about that.
Very cool. And what was it like? Had you been to Camera Maj before?
No, I had wanted to go to Camera Maj for about 15 years, and
What a way to go!
what a way to go. I mean, it was really just being there was one of the best experiences I've ever had, and then just if you guys haven't been, it's so worth it to go. It's such an amazing festival for cinematographers and directors and creators, and just really celebrates the art and craft of cinematography, and it's in a beautiful town, and it's just a magical week. And just winning was, I'm still processing that actually. It might be a while before I actually realize that happened.
Very cool. So how do you feel that is, how does that compare and contrast with some of the other festivals?
I'm kind of new to festivals, so this is my first Sundance, and
apparently you just go and win everywhere you go. So like you're not allowed to go anywhere unless you're about to win.
yeah, don't you win at every festival you go to? That's part of it. No, it's a new world for me. Sundance is so different from San Sebastian and Camera Maj, of course. It's just super unique. They all seem to have their own personality, and it's really fun.
And how long did you shoot for?
We shot for about 22 days. Yeah, it's not bad, but our days were quite short because there's no roads where we're shooting, so we had to like walk the equipment in and walk it out, and just all stairs, lots of stairs.
Yeah, I've been there too. That's always fun when you're like bringing like 1,000 books up a 2-floor New York walk up. That's fun. Not really. So tell us about your workflow process. What do you start with, and how do you build your gear and technology choices to go with your desired look and the art that you're trying to create by the end of it? Where do you start with that workflow? I guess it's a you question.
All right. Well, every project's different. So just to give a little background on me, I'm a little fractured, but it all really comes together if you know me personally and the kind of stuff I do. I do a lot of comedy and dramedy when it comes to the narrative space, but I'm also really drawn to experimental work and do a lot with choreography, whether it be fight, whether that be screen dance, or like you mentioned before, I have a company called Versatile Assassins, and we do aerial art films, so like Cirque du Soleil type of performances that work their way into a narrative context. So all of these things sort of demand different workflows and ideas, but it all starts in pre-production. And I think, we were talking earlier today, literally when you're talking about workflow and process, you're really talking about having conversations with people to make sure everyone's on the same page, right? And making sure that no one's making any assumptions. You don't want to assume that you're going to be on Premiere when you might be on Avid. If you're, working with, just because this editor worked on, Premiere last time doesn't mean that they don't assume that you might be doing Avid this time. So much of it is just conversations. Some of the stuff I do requires making pre-vises. So if I'm working, for instance, with a stunt coordinator or a choreographer, a lot of times we'll use a basic like DSLR or an iPhone camera even and do pre-vises. I shot a short in a bathroom this year. I shot an entire short, 10 minutes in a 4x6 foot bathroom, and I'm telling you, you would not know that bathroom was tiny because of the choices we made, the way we used mirrors, we took doors off. But we also were really specific about our lens choices. We found ways to use long lenses in that bathroom and tell the story compellingly. But it was me and my DP traveling all over LA, looking at different bathrooms with the Artemis app and with her. She had a red camera, and we had a variety of different lenses, and we tested things out. So I think one, communication. Two, and part of communication is finding people who are passionate enough to have as many conversations as it takes. There were 2 shots in this bathroom that we realized that we were going to need a super wide lens for. It was basically, we were only able to see a square of what would have been widescreen, but we were able to make these very informed decisions on what kind of lenses we needed, and by the way, the order of our day and my shooting list, because I looked at all my wish list of everything I wanted to do in this room, and I knew, and by the way, this is a short that took place, there was a shower mid-scene, so there was them in their clothes, the shower happens, and then them in their towels afterwards with wet hair. So the shot list was dictated, or the order of the day was first of all dictated by how they were going to be dressed, and obviously you're going to do wet hair after dry hair. But I also knew that I wanted some shots in a certain direction with seeing the whole room, and I had to take the door off for that. So I had to be judicious and figure out when is that most important in my story. And having done all this research, using that app, bringing my DP into it, bringing my production designer into it to figure out, hey, if we hang a little mirror that we get from a store here, can I pick up that reaction here without crossing the line in a weird way? Things like that were very, very helpful. And because I'm an editor, I was cutting the movie in my head during pre-production. So, if I hadn't been editing it, or if I'd been working with an editor, I probably would have asked a script supervisor or an editor to come with me during my walkthrough once I knew the place that I wanted to go and say, all right, these are the challenges of this particular crazy environment that we're working with, which is kind of unusual. I mean, usually you don't stay in a room that's the size of a small Los Angeles bathroom for 10 minutes, but that was the script. It was the script I decided I wanted to make, and I had to do it. I mean, I could keep going and going, but I want to hear what these ladies have to say.
Yeah, I think you're completely correct, and it is all conversations. We were talking earlier, and a lot of it is, if you have someone like you who has the experience as a director and editor, you're able to see a lot of that. But you're also oftentimes, especially as you get on bigger and bigger projects, a lot more people involved, a lot of cooks in the kitchen. And I think, sometimes we tend to get in this way where we say okay, this is production, and my DP and my director and my AC, my AD, my sound, and what's happening on set in these 30 days is my focus. And I get it in the can and we move on. But and that happens. Sometimes it's like there's not even an editor hired yet. You have to move this way. But if that is the choice, and that's the way you have to make the film, you have to make different decisions on how you're going to handle the post side, because it's so much more connected now than ever before, and you have so many more resources to address certain things up front. So if you want to have a certain way where you're cutting with your dailies during production, if you need to shoot in remote locations, how are you going to handle that? Are you going to have smaller files or stills that you're going to be sharing to get feedback on each day, so you can say, we got that angle, we got that performance, we got enough coverage before we leave this location. So all of those are things, and then for, I kind of always think about it, from the picture and the color side. But, it's oftentimes, we're even talking to cinematographers and saying like, well, what camera do you want to shoot on? What lenses? And let's go shoot tests, and then let's bring it in and let's look at it, and let's talk about what the effects of those lenses, and is that camera giving you everything you need, both technically and creatively? Especially now with all the different distribution platforms, that can be really confusing, because if you're giving this to Netflix, if you're giving this to Quibi, if you're giving this to Amazon, Hulu, they all have different specs, formats. And you don't want to get caught up in having to, be held to that and have to, give up on the creative. You can make both of them work, and I think, being able to talk to somebody, like us, hopefully, or somebody, but trusting in your collaborators and people, who can help you work through those things up front, so that you have the freedom. Because ultimately, it's like my biggest, I feel the best, when I can say like a DP felt like they got exactly what they wanted, and their story was beautifully told visually, and a director can say the same thing and know that like they were supported to get there. And it's really just about having those conversations, with each and every individual involved.
So can you talk a little bit about your workflow process?
Yeah, it's different for every project, and I think what you guys said is the same. It's just like creating community, creating open lines of communication. I mean, there's just no reason why now we all can't, talk about posts in the beginning and just be one group, because it's really, really important. I mean, especially as a cinematographer, it's like you just want to have those conversations ahead of time and give posts what they need, just so you're involved, as much as you want to be, and as much as you want to see the vision through. I think it's really important just to talk about stuff and give posts what they need. I shoot like, distortion charts and for VFX, and if the director really want to shoot anamorphic, I think that's really important, just to do the work and work as a community together. And for me, my experience is mostly in commercials, so I do like live grading and sort of like pass off the projects for the most part. Sometimes I'm involved in the color grade, but for the most part it's like bye at the end of the day, and that's it. But for the feature, it was a lot more important for me to have this really close relationship with my colorist. And I guess every DP knows this. It's just a really, really important thing to start that talk before you shoot, to get the colorist involved in the looks that you're creating, and to have the dailies be close to your vision as possible, because there's that temp love that happens, and that's a horrifying thing, and it's real. And so, as much as you can kind of get ahead of that, I think the best success you can have as a DP to like have your vision be like to the end.
Do you look at fine art or movies when you're putting your visual language together? And if so, what's the kind of the visuals that really turn you on and get you excited for a project?
It just really depends. I mean, sometimes it depends on the director, and how clear their vision is. I work with a lot of directors that, are artists as well, and they'll paint stuff and they'll board stuff. Other times I'll present, go to a meeting with some art books and some ideas and just really, start the conversation just based on story and character. And
Are there any particular artists that come to mind that, or like especially for Pacificato? Was there anything particular?
The director and I looked a lot at a film called A Prophet. That was like a really big influence for us in terms of blocking and sort of camera movement. I have just like so many DPs that I'm constantly looking at. Conrad Hall, Bradford Young, Harris Betty's, and Kimmel. So it's, and then that painters and photographers and just even music videos. It's like a lot of different things.
Speaking of music videos, you made a music video with Queen Bey. What was that like?
It was amazing. She's a goddess. I mean, I don't no surprise there, but it was a really intimate shoot. It was just myself and my AC and her. It was a really small crew, and she does wardrobe changes on the fly. Like, she's ready before you can even pick up your camera. She's changed and ready to go. And just down, just super down to do anything, bounce around ideas. And she was directing the video, and she was just really collaborative and just really adventurous and cool. I gave her a piggyback ride. She's kind of small, yeah.
Very cool. So we want to open it up to you folks. We have a question.
Hi, my name is Emily. I'm getting started as a producer right now. And something that I've found in projects that I've worked on is occasionally when I try to voice opinions or ideas that I have, I can be undermined or second guessed by some of my male collaborators as well as their intentions maybe. I was just wondering if any of you three have had that experience, and if you have, how have you gracefully come back from that and been able to stand your ground?
That's something we would like a lot of our guy friends in the audience to hear. In fact, it's really important that our male allies and friends hear these answers, because it's something I know we have all dealt with.
I see people looking at me. I think so. I'll talk a little bit. Of course, I've experienced that. I think that we probably all have, and it's there's a little bit of a tightrope walk to walk because we do want to grow from people who have more experience from us, but sometimes it's someone who's well-meaning who just wants to. I think the first thing I would say is assume that the intent is not coming from a place of them wanting to tear you down, because I think a lot of men don't really realize that they could be mansplaining or that they could be causing other people to question your authority on a set if you're given that authority. So there might be an instance where you can say, hey, I'm really, I want you here because your opinion's here. Can you take me aside if you want to share this? I want to make sure that people don't get confused who's in charge. That's generally what I've done in those sorts of situations. And I think especially because every once in a while I'll be working with someone who's like double my age on a set. And of course they might have something worth saying, and I don't want them to feel like they can't say something because every single person on my set is there for a reason. But at the same time, I want them to understand that ultimately the choices that we make today are, me and my producer, respectively, depending on what the choice is, maybe my DP, but things are filtering through me. And so regardless if you have done this 10 times longer than me, right here today, because of the titles that are set up, things are filtering through me and you're a great resource. So I think just framing it as, hey, I know you didn't mean this, so maybe they did, but benefit of the doubt will make it less awkward. And they probably didn't, they probably truly didn't. And make sure they know that they're valuable, and make sure that they know also that you're not going to stand for that to keep happening. Because if it happens a second time, that's when you can say, hey, this is becoming a problem. And I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah, I think, it's a tough situation because, everybody's just trying to get through and do a job, and, at the end of the day, you all have to work together again. And I think, it's all about the relationships. But I think, what I have found, there are not a lot of female colorists. And so, for me, I found that, one of the things was just every resource I could kind of find to open myself up, to learn things and equip myself. And then if I don't know something, to just be honest and open and trust that the people that I'm working with will respect that I'm able to say, like, that's not something I'm familiar with, but I'm willing to dive into it. I think, I found that for me, that's gained a lot of trust in people I've worked with. And then I've been able to have other collaborators stand up and say, like, no, she knows what she's talking about. You need to listen. And I think, you can kind of build that community over time by really kind of, working your way in and kind of showing that you know what you're doing.
How about you? What would you?
Well, I agree with these ladies 100%. If you're a producer,
Yes.
yeah, I mean, you build your community, and vet people, and it will happen. It's gonna happen. It happens. It's part of being collaborative, and I like they were saying, people don't realize it. People really don't realize they're doing it.
What advice?
The graceful answer, is just like thank you for your opinion, and move on.
What advice would you give the guys, actually, if they, conversely, what advice would you give the guys?
It's something just to be self-aware of, but I've seen men do it to men too. I don't think it's, but I think it's just as people get more aware of, just like being respectful to others and, accepting, more inclusion on set. It's like just something for men to be aware of, and they really are. I work with some men that they pointed out to me. I'm so like used to it and so like used to dealing with it that it's really, my guys who have really risen and they've become very, very aware of it.
Provided we're not running out of time and someone has something that they think is helpful, I love hearing it. Like I said before, I think it's just the way that you do it. You don't say it out loud so that everyone can hear you. And the point shouldn't be, look how smart I am, I'm providing something to this director or this producer who happens to be a woman. It's taking them aside and saying, I had a thought that might work for you. And then leaving it to them. So, because we all want to learn from each other, you never stop wanting to learn, no matter how old you are, no matter how experienced you are. But just respect the line of command.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, and it's not a male female thing either. It's like young and old, and especially now, I think a big thing is, with new technologies, there's a lot of young people who think like, if you're 50 and older, like you have no idea how this works, right? And I think, that's a really wrong way to look at it as well. Or that, somebody who's been in the business, and, has done something, that's the right way just because it's always been the way they've done it. Every project is different and it takes a different type of solution and it takes different mindsets and different people. And I think as long as you're always approaching it like that and you're treating everyone with respect, then, that's how you make a good movie.
So I would like to thank everybody who came today to ZEISS, to their open house. It's been an incredible day filled with tech, incredible panelists, so much talent in the room. We're so thankful to be here with our friends from ZEISS. And we hope that you will check out Women in Media. That's women, the letter N, media.com. And we are just thrilled to be here at the festival. Sundance has been incredible. And we are really close to parity at this festival now. And let's just keep going in that direction. Yeah, so thank you, and thank you all very much for joining us.